Let me start by acknowledging a presence which may not be visible, but it has been with us ever since we started this ceremony. Tata, welcome to be with us today. Honorable Minister of Health, Dr. Motsoaledi, the Hang, as I call you, the Minister, the MSc of Health in Gauteng, I think she has left. My dear trustees of both the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund and the Nelson Mandela Children's Hospital Trust, ambassadors, religious leaders, our friends, donors, partners, and stakeholders, and more especially, children. The Nelson Mandela Children's Hospital is a monument of love, care, and service by Madiba himself. From the time he decided to establish the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund and to share from his own pocket a third of his salary to make the fund stand, and mobilized all friends to support. Even he challenged them to match what it was his contribution to the Children's Fund. Without the Children's Fund, maybe we wouldn't have the Children's Hospital. So, as we honor Madiba today, we also honor the Children's Fund and the trust of the Children's Hospital, which I have the honor to serve. The Nelson Mandela Children's Hospital is a monument of excellence. From the detail of conception of what the hospital was supposed to be, from all the very careful planning which took place and the consultation of every single knowledge and expertise we could know of to bring together to make sure that this hospital is to be a special animal of its kind, as the minister said. But it's also a monument which reminds South Africa and Africa that excellence is possible. We have people with knowledge, with expertise, with dedication, with the ability to bring together the variety of expertise needed to have exactly the very best we can produce. And it is so, because when we say children's first, we really mean it. Children deserve the very best every society can provide. And Madiba said to us, any society will be judged according to the way it treats its children. And the Children's Hospital is exactly stating that. Children are to have in this hospital the very best we can. The trust has raised the standards for this country and for this continent. It has been proved that we can do it, and from now on, there are no excuse to give second-class and third-class treatment to children in need. When Madiba passed on, there were thousands, possibly even millions of pledges. where people were touched very deeply by his life, and they promised, Madiba, we are going to leave your legacy. We are going to make sure that your principles, the way you treated every single human being, we are going to emulate that, and we promise. The Children's Hospital is saying, yes, we promise to you, Madiba, and we promise to children, here we are. The hospital is here. It's extremely important to remind also our society that the promise to a child is exclusively to be fulfilled. Never promise to a child what you are not sure you are going to deliver. And we made clear that the promise made by Madiba and charging us to implement will have to be exactly as his name deserves, as every single child in our continent deserves. This hospital is an expression of every child counts. Every child matters. It has been said here, any child in need of very specialized treatment, which the hospital is to provide, will be welcome, regardless of his or her status, regardless of the structure of the family the child comes from. So this hospital is also a reminder that we promise that this society is a society of equity, where there's no race, there's no gender, there's no rich and poor, there's no rural and urban. All people are equal. In this case, all children who need this treatment, it will be provided to them. It is a reminder that social justice is built and it's possible when there is dedication and there is a commitment to be very focused in making sure that you don't have only a building, but you have the values which are behind service, which are behind providing social justice. This hospital is also an expression of what collaboration can achieve. South Africans, Africans, and many people from around the world did contribute to make it happen. It means where there is a cause, there are no boundaries. We all can join. And of course, Madiba's name was a huge mobilizer for this immense goodwill we have had. But that's precisely what we promise, that his life is to inspire us to overcome all boundaries, to value the humanity which exists in every single human being, and in this case, especially the humanity which exists in every child. This hospital is also an expression of sharing. South Africa has built this hospital, but this hospital is to serve the whole region of SADC. The first step will be to bring pediatricians, specialized nurses, to be absolutely aligned and tuned with the fact that how do you treat a child who is sick? A child who is sick deserves an exceptional care. And everyone has to be exceptionally trained to be able to calm down, to build the empathy with a child so that a child will feel safe, a child will trust those who are treating. So the first step will be training specialists from the region. But our hope and dream is that those teams coming from different countries in SADC will be in permanent connection with this hospital, using the technologies and the telemedicine which is available, so that it doesn't matter whether it is in the most rural area of any of these SADC countries, as long as there is a trained pediatrician and a nurse who has been specialized, that treatment can get to those children. So we are very clear that this is much bigger than we can imagine in terms of where we have to go. But that is also the message of solidarity, which we learned from his life. There is no an issue of a child who is South African, or a child who is Malawian, or a child who is Zimbabwean. We adults, we fight around those things. Who is who? But the philosophy of this hospital is that every child, at least in this region, deserves access and quality. Not only access, but quality of treatment. I want to acknowledge Bongi in a very special way. She is really the heart of this initiative. She lives, Bongi has been for years living day and night to make this hospital a reality. All of us, we supported, but she is the one. And I want really from the bottom of my heart to say thank you, baby girl. Thank you. You did it. You did it. Of her team, I would like to mention Joe and Moss. I don't know where they are. I come to tears every time when we sit in those meetings of the trust to listen to them, the care in which they play, every single detail of how to prepare to make sure that the day the hospital opens, everything is absolutely in place. I've never seen this before. And I want really to acknowledge you and to thank you. From now on, I think even those who did not know, we have expertise here of building hospitals, particularly children's hospital in this team. I would like to acknowledge the campaign for Kids by Kids. One of the beautiful things which happened is to mobilize children to think and to participate in how to make that place, not a hospital, but a place where a child can feel, I'm a child. And whoever is going to walk into those walls will find they has those designs which are basically of South African culture. They were conceived by children. They sat down and they designed. So children themselves, they have made a significant mark, which was to teach us as adults how you should think of a hospital for kids. And I want to acknowledge them because that touch has led us to understand much better that whoever as a child who's going to walk into that hospital will see himself or herself as a child, even in pain. I want to acknowledge artists who took the initiative to paint and to bring, alive the hospital, the walls of hospital. It is as if you are in a garden. It is as if you are in a zoo where you can see animals, you can see plants, the beauty of nature was brought into the walls of the hospital precisely to make sure that children in pain, they will be comforted, but also they will, even when they go into the machine which is going to do the scan all around the children, all around the room, they are designs and paintings of nature, not to frighten a child. I think there's here a huge lesson. How minister, even with much less, maybe, concentration of expertise, how our pediatric ward should be changed. Even before we can have many more hospitals like this, we have a reference to begin to rethink and to change the way when a child goes to a pediatric ward has to be treated as a child. I would like also to acknowledge and thank the workers, those who built that hospital. They will never have a name. They will never have a name, put there as contributors to build that hospital. But brick by brick, it was an act of love for them to build the hospital. Wherever they are, we want to thank them for having given us that beauty which we have today. There's, of course, some of the donors which I have to acknowledge. It has been acknowledged already, but particularly those who trusted the idea of the hospital. When everything really, there are many people who thought it wouldn't happen. But there are few from the beginning who trusted that it would be possible to build the hospital. And they did allocate the resources. We heard here Eric Sampson and Sheila, the Islamic Relief Worldwide, who supported the Oncology Center, the Elmer Foundation, the Kellogg's Foundations, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the National Skills Fund. Most importantly, it's not only to have everything built, it's the human touch, which is expected to be characterizing in that hospital, from those who clean to those who are security guards. Every single person is being trained to know this is a place for children. And I want to thank those who really gave us the opportunity to train the people and the teams we need. As I said, our story will be always linked to that of the Children's Fund and its mandate. And for this, I want to thank Justice Museneke, who is the former chairperson of the fund, and also Justice Yvonne Mohoro, who is our current chair. I want really to also thank, from the bottom of my heart, our board members. Every single one of them volunteered knowledge, expertise, time, their mobilizing efforts, and making sure that we will get the funds which we needed to build the hospital. Now, our task as a trust has simply reached the most important milestone, which is to have the building and equipment and the people trained. But we are quite aware that we need to continue to mobilize resources to build an endowment for the hospital. And we'll continue to work, and we'll continue to count on those who will be willing to walk the journey with us so that this hospital will never be in a situation where it cannot receive children because there are no resources to keep it working. And that is the task of the trust. And we would like to thank those who have contributed, but those who can continue to contribute, yes, will come and will continue to knock at your doors. The government of South Africa, and in this case we'll say clearly, Minister Mtsoaledi, thank you so much. Thank you so much. First, for having understood the nature of this hospital. There were very many people who fought the idea of the hospital. It is an hospital for elite, it's a hospital which is going to draw specialized people from other places, etc., etc. Why should we? But the minister was very, very clear. And from the onset had been a champion of the Children's Hospital. We hope you will continue to mobilize your colleagues in that government to continue to support this initiative, knowing quite clearly that it's not only about the hospital which carries Nelson Mandela's name. It's about raising the bar. It's about having an example of what every pediatric ward, every single hospital for children should achieve. So it is for South Africa to have a model. It's for South Africa to have an example. So it is not that this is to be a hospital of elite. On the contrary, is to show where from the bottom all of us we have to go and what we have to achieve. I'd like also to, at this moment, to speak to Papa. You have been there, and we saw you beaming with joy because a milestone has been achieved for the hospital to be there. But thank you for the lessons. We wouldn't have really understood the depth of the task Madiba was giving us if it were not because of the deep way in which, Papa, we were in our lounge and Bongi and Ish were there. And you looked at the two of us, the two ladies, and you say, you know, we have to build that hospital. Madiba knew he was not going to build the hospital. He knew that he was giving us a lesson of how we have to continue to love, to care, and to be at service of children. So the lesson has remained. The lesson for us is that there is no compromise. It has to be the very best. That's the lesson you left with us, Papa, and we are going to try. And I'm saying we are going to try to be inspired by the way you always cared for every single child of this continent of ours, every single child in the world. And if there is a pledge which has been fulfilled, is the building of the hospital. And I want to remind all those who have made pledges, privately and publicly, who have made pledges to make Madiba's legacy live. Yes, you have an example. Take your part to make South Africa a society of social justice. Let South Africa become an example of, if we are to be judged what kind of society we are, let's look at the example this hospital is going to give us, so that no children will continue to die unnecessarily in our hospitals. No children born will not thrive, while we do have the resources to give an opportunity to every single child to thrive in this country. No child should live in fear, being brutalized, violence against children. All of us, we are being told loving, caring, and being at service. It starts in the family, in the community, in institutions. And there's the lesson which was left to us. And from our side, Children's Fund, Children's Hospital, we promise you we'll try our best. Thank you.